All right, it looks like we're getting some viewers. We have 15, 17. Awesome. Hi, everybody. We're coming to you from LACMA, the Los Angeles County Museum of Art. These are our European galleries. And I'm Lucy Rodolia, the social media manager, and I'm here with Amber Smith, one of our art historians and educators, and she's going to tell you about Baroque art today.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining in. We're going to briefly talk about Italian Baroque art specifically and quickly look at some of the works here in LACMA's permanent collection of Italian Baroque art, the art of the 17th century, and we'll also highlight one work in particular. But Lucy will show us around the gallery space. The gallery is really cool because it's divided between roughly between the two different schools of art that were created during this time. Those artists who were influenced by Caravaggio, such as this Baglione painting right here, the Ecstasy of St. Francis, and those who were influenced by the Carracci school. And we see some of those works on the opposite wall that are much more clear, logical, not nearly as dramatic as those that we see in the followers of Caravaggio. And you might notice that some of the sculptures in the gallery look rather old, and they are. These sculptures are ancient Roman sculptures, and it's really interesting to note that many Baroque artists looked back to or were influenced by the art of ancient Rome, and so there's a nice interplay in this gallery between those actual ancient objects and the art that was influenced by them.
We have a little school group coming in, and we're going to actually go to a painting that's right near where they are.
So hopefully everyone can hear me well enough.
Can you guys tell us where you're viewing from?
Beautiful expression possible. So even though today somebody didn't have their clothes on, oh, that's something weird.
Ventura, Washington, Gardena,
Oh wow,
Pasadena, LA.
we have
Got
some
a lot of
locals.
And Michigan, Costa Mesa, Bakersfield, Austin, Sacramento, Zurich.
Zurich, Switzerland, great.
All right, so
Okay, well this is
Amber.
the work we'll focus a little bit more attention on, and this is a painting by a Dutch artist named Gerrit van Honthorst. It was painted around 1617 to 1620. And you might notice that it's a very large painting, as many of the works are here, but it's also rather dark and only illuminated by the extraordinary torch light in the center of the painting. We have a moment here, kind of a snapshot view of a moment in time. We have a question here.
Watching it with their 3-year-old.
Oh, watching with a 3-year-old. Thank you for joining.
Sorry.
This you may be able to tell or may not be able to tell, but it is a religious scene in nature. And as I was about to say, it's really dark. It's darkly painted. There's a lot of shadow. There's really strong contrasts of light and dark, and those were important tenets during the Baroque era, during the 17th century that we're talking about, that intense drama that was created by those two contrasts. We see a lot in these painters who followed a particular artist named Caravaggio, and the artist we're looking at now, Honthorst, was influenced by that particular artist, and we see examples of his influence in other painters during the same time, and those same tenets of strong light and dark, the strong contrast that creates visual intensity to highlight the emotion in the painting is really prevalent in those works, and we see that here in this extraordinary painting by Honthorst. So what is being depicted? As I mentioned, it is a religious scene. It is called the Mocking of Christ. We have a figure of Jesus on the left with a bare torso, and a group of men to the left mocking him. If you can see their faces they don't look idealized. They're not the most beautiful faces you've ever seen, and that's intentional. And even the face of Christ isn't a perfectly idealized face. These faces were meant to look like the everyman, the man off the street, and that lent kind of this gritty naturalism to the scene that was really popular during this time period to kind of make the painting or the artwork or what was being depicted even more relevant to the viewer. And I mean, you notice one of the figures on the left, looks like he's even missing a tooth.
Does anybody have any questions about this artwork?
Naturalistic, the opposite of idealistic? Yeah, you could say that. So this intense sense of naturalism was definitely in opposition to an idealized face or figure that was very popular in centuries or art movements before the Baroque, like the Renaissance, for example. What is the figure to the right using to hold the head? It looks almost, it's a Y shape. Looks like a Y-shaped piece of wood, and you might notice on the head of Christ there's a crown of thorns up there. Yeah, right there.
And Amber, when was this painted again?
This was painted 1617 to 1620, thereabouts.
How would the Baroque have been promoting Christianity?
Oh, that's a good question. The question is, how was the Baroque used to promote Christianity? At this time in history, in European history specifically, there was a lot of tension between the Catholic Church and the newly created Protestant Church, and so the Catholic Church used imagery, used paintings, used sculpture as a way to heighten emotion in the viewer, and we see that a lot in this painting in particular and other paintings in the gallery where emotion and drama is heightened, so the viewer can, and as an attempt to get the viewer to feel the emotions that are depicted.
All right, so maybe one more point.
Sure. So another thing to notice is there's really no background here. There's no sense of place behind these figures. It's completely dark, and that was intentional. So we don't have a landscape behind, we don't have any architecture, and it really was intentional to make the viewer really focus on the scene itself, almost like a spotlit stage. This sense of drama was very much intentional. And if you notice, all the figures are kind of pushed up against the picture plane, almost like they're coming into our space or we're going into their space. So there's this tension between the viewer and what's being depicted that goes back and forth.
Well, guys, I think that's pretty much wraps up our broadcast for today, unless anyone has any last-minute questions. But thank you again for tuning in.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for joining.
Oh, the clothing of the characters are not according to the era.
Yes, that's a great observation. So a question about the clothing. So last minute question, the clothing of the Roman legionnaires on the left is contemporary to when the painting was created, but not contemporary to when, to the first century AD when this scene would have happened. So that's a really good observation that the group of five men, they're wearing clothing that's contemporary to when this painting was created.
Awesome, Amber. Thank you so much for doing this for us, and everybody, thank you for watching. We'll be sharing another Art of Looking video next month, and just tune into our Periscope for other things that we have coming up. Thanks.
Thanks again.